everybody, and welcome to Sidebar with me, JT. Wink. Oh, wait, I wasn't supposed to say the wink. That was in the... Yep, that's just how that goes. Yep, from here on out, wink. That's what I'm going to say. Anyways, welcome, where we do one-shot cases, and we kind of talk about not only cases, but kind of some themes around it. And that won't always happen, but over the past couple, we've been doing that. Hopefully you've enjoyed these. If you like them, leave a message down in the comments. If you have suggestions for cases that you'd like to see, leave them down in the comments below. Make sure you hit the like, subscribe button, and become a member. We would love to have you as one of our jurors. And then that way you can have your mug of Kool-Aid with a C and an E because of copyright infringement, and you can pull up your own juror chair during our live streams. Anyways, today we're going to look at cases that or a case that wasn't about the crime itself as much as the impact it had on society and the law. And we're going to look at how culture was altered and how laws have had to change to keep up. And I think we can all agree that, it is necessary at times to change some laws. Laws become outdated, and, just in general, some are just plain silly, I think. And we're going to talk about a few of these laws to begin with, because I think with a little levity would help to kind of ease some of the difficult nature of this case. So, for instance, I couldn't go for very long in this entire series of Sidebar without doing just a little bit of a Monty Python shindig. But, for example, did you know that in the UK, it is illegal to look shifty while carrying a fish? So, John Cleese, I'm sorry, it's out, because you both looked pretty shifty. That's all I'm saying. At the same time, in Alabama, it's illegal to wear a fake mustache to church and drive blindfolded. And also in Arizona, donkeys aren't allowed to sleep in bathtubs. So, just in case you have a donkey that likes to sleep in a bathtub. And that's not all. In California, there is no kissing if you have a mustache. I don't know what the world has against mustaches, whether they're fake or real. Although I will say this, you got to be a real special person to wear a mustache, and that's all. In the craziest of all states, Florida, elephants left at parking meters must pay the same as a car. Now, listen, while these may be funny, they are actual laws, and it illustrates that laws need to be reviewed and changed to fit into a more modern society. Although I'm not sure parking your elephant was ever in question. I don't think there was a need for that. Maybe Ringling Brothers. But that's over too. So anyway, so there are two main ways that crimes have changed laws, right? One is through the lawmakers themselves seeing a need for change, and the other is when the public speaks out over injustice so loudly that politicians and lawmakers must take notice. They no longer can ignore what might have been staring them in the face. And as you can imagine, it's the second one that is more prevalent. And even then, it doesn't happen as often as it should. Now, when we watch court cases on 13th Juror or other channels, the coverage lasts a few weeks to a few months, right? Every now and then, though, there comes a trial that stays in the viewer's consciousness, and it's burned into their memory. For example, all over social media, people are still talking about Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard, even though it was well over a year ago. And it shows that some cases can't easily be forgotten. I still have folks that are asking for Night Court to cover that case next. And while it's definitely a contender, it tells you that things are still in people's memories about this. Now, whether it is the case itself or the celebrity aspect of it, it still sticks. And there are some themes from that case that I think are important to consider. Now, overall, these cases stir people to speak out about the injustice they see, and they even stir people to act. The aftermath doesn't just last weeks, it lasts a lifetime. And the impact goes beyond the crime committed because of its influence on society. Public opinion is a strong force. It's a thunderous noise from campaigners that can enact change. Now, when a mass of voices join together, authorities must listen. The voices carry a weight that is exponentially greater than if it were just one. After all, politicians and some elected positions in law are supported by people's votes. So a bit of people pleasing kind of needs to happen. And what people want is justice. In the UK in the early 2000s, there was a popular nationwide campaign for a change in a law regarding the protection of children from harm, abduction, and abuse. Now, let's stop right here and put a trigger warning in this video. We are talking about crimes against children, one child in particular, and that can be triggering for some. So always look after your mental health. That's first and foremost. Now, if this subject is too much for you, please step away. And we're going to see on the next sidebar. It's okay to look out for yourself. Please know that I mean that. We will be back with something else next time. So, according to the NSPCC, or the National Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Children, there were 73,518 recorded offenses, including rape, online grooming, and sexual assault against children in the UK in 2019-2020. That statistic is staggering. What is more staggering is that the measurement is up 57% in 5 years. The charity Action Against Abduction estimates that roughly 50 children under the age of 16 are abducted by strangers every year. In the same report, which used data from a UK police force, or the UK police forces in 2011-12, it found that 42% of all abduction attempts were made by strangers. In many societies, children are voiceless. These statistics give them a voice that can be heard. These are scary figures for any parent to contemplate. What if your child were included in those statistics? If the 57% increase over 5 years continues to happen, it becomes exponentially more likely that this question is reasonable. And that's incredibly scary, especially to myself as a parent, and I'm sure to you as well. Even if you are not a parent, you know somebody who is. It is a parent's worst nightmare. Think about it. Have you ever lost sight of your child, even for a split second? I mean, how does that feel? Your heart beats so wildly in your chest, and the panic you feel overwhelms your senses. On my recent trip to DC with my kids, my oldest seems to be very good at just kind of standing right behind me. And then as I turn, going the other way. So I think he's gone. And that to me is extremely frightening. Your instinct to protect your child is so strong that for your child to be missing or abducted can lead anyone into a dark hole of despair. Now, when listening to interviews with people that experience this, they often mention depression, anxiety, reliance on medication and alcohol, breakdown of relationships, and even suicide as a result. The aftermath of losing a child in such traumatic circumstances has a profound impact on their loved ones forever. But this is not what happened to Sarah Payne, the mother of who you see in this photo, Sarah Payne. Her daughter who was abducted and killed. She put all her efforts into changing the law and to make the world a safer place for every child. So let's look at what happened to Sarah. Sarah lived with her mother and father, 2 older brothers, Luke and Lee, and younger sister Charlotte in West Sussex, England. West Sussex is on the south coast of England. Basically, if you go to London, you head south towards the English Channel, looking out towards France, you're going to be in Sussex. Sussex is split into two parts, East and West Sussex, and it's known for Meghan and Harry being the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. Though, apparently, according to my writer, Shareen, for this script, thank you, by the way, 1.61 million residents are not thrilled with that connection. Her siblings describe Sarah as a girly girl. She was into Spice Girls, and she loved dressing up and singing. Her mother described her as being motherly, very tidy, and always caring towards her three siblings. Sarah and her family were visiting her grandparents' house on July 1st, 2000. Their house backed onto a field where she was playing hide and seek with her siblings. After scraping her knee, she decided to go back home. And as she stormed off in the direction of her grandparents' home, she was abducted. You can see in this photo here the hedge where Sarah entered Kingston Lane, the swings where Sarah played, as well as Kingston Lane itself, and then Sarah's grandparents' home, as well, in terms of how close it is and how it backs up to that large field. When asked if he had seen anything, her brother said he had seen a scruffy-looking man driving away in a white van, close to where he had just seen Sarah. Now, the police went straight to work, and a helicopter was sent out to kind of scour the area. In addition, search parties were organized as well. The police started visiting known sex offenders in the area the very next day. They had a database of all known convicted sex offenders called the Sex Offenders Register. Now, the register containing the names of individuals cautioned. A police caution is when someone who is admitted to a minor crime are formally warned and sanctioned by the police rather than going through the court system. When individuals are cautioned, convicted, or released from prison for a sexual offense against both children and adults, from 1997 forward, they're put on this register. Offenses that get you put on the register include anything from voyeurism and possessing indecent images to sexual assault and rape. The police instantly thought that someone on this list may have taken Sarah from the description given to them by her brother. Police visited the home of Roy Whiting, but when Roy saw the police at his door, he drove away in his white van. Police went on to interview many more, but their suspicions of Whiting had already been raised. Roy Whiting was born in 1959 in Horsham, West Sussex, to a metalworker and was an only child. His parents struggled with losing pregnancies, and two of their children died at only a few days old due to disabilities. This must have put a great strain on the family. I can't even imagine, as they suffered so much grief. Now, when he was 12, Roy's mother left the family home and remarried. He most likely felt abandoned and unloved by her actions, and he was left alone with his father, and that must have been very lonely. People described Roy as a loner as a child, quiet, isolated, and that he didn't make friends easily. So, for him to lose siblings and his mother, it probably had a great influence on his psyche. Now, we don't know if Roy had a social or mental illness, but isolation and quiet seems to have, been a lot. We hear that a lot when we're profiling killers. And we've also seen how impactful it is on someone throughout, the duration of the pandemic. Now, Roy had been married briefly. He had a child, but he had very little to do with his son. He struggled to keep down jobs and moved from job to job very frequently. He worked in factories and as a delivery driver, but he also had periods of unemployment, which led to the breakdown of the relationship with his son and his mother. It was around this time, or immediately after, when he abducted his first victim prior to Sarah. But we're going to go back to Sarah. Over the next few weeks, police would receive copious amounts of information from the public about possible sightings of the girl. All this information, as it does in many cases we've heard or watched documentaries about, proved to be false. On the 17th of July, a partially buried body was found at a roadside in Pulborough, 15 miles away from where Sarah disappeared. The body was confirmed to be that of Sarah. Sarah was naked, had been sexually assaulted, strangled, and suffocated. Whiting was brought in and questioned. The police searched his property and found a fuel receipt for a gas station in Buck Barn, Pulborough, on the afternoon of the abduction. And this directly contradicted his alibi that he was at a fun fair between the hours of 5:30 and 9:30 p.m. His lack of concern for Sarah and the fact that he had driven away earlier raised the suspicions of police, so much so they arrested him. In the police interview, he answered no comment to every question, and because of a lack of evidence, a few days later, he was released. On the 20th of July, a shoe was found in Coolham. Coolham? I'm going with Coolham because I think Coolham sounds like I don't know what I'm talking about. Coolham, near Pulborough, where Whiting had gotten gas. Sarah's parents confirmed that it was indeed her shoe, shown here in the picture. This shoe would prove to be an essential piece of evidence. 7 days later, for some unknown reason, Whiting stole a Vauxhall Nova and was involved in a high-speed chase with police, which led him to being arrested and charged with dangerous driving. For this, he received a 22-month jail sentence. This sentence would prove to be more fortuitous than law enforcement could have ever imagined. While in prison, police carried on with their investigation and ran tests on Whiting's white Ducato van, which he had bought just before the abduction. The police had brought in many experts to test particles from the van. Nowadays, they would pull the data from the car's central computer, as we have seen in modern-day trials, but they could not do that back then. What they did do was truly a feat of science, ingenuity, and tenacity. They matched particles from the van to the area where the body was discovered. The experts included an entomologist, which is a study of insects, a palynologist, a study of dust, an environmental profiler, an oil and lubricant analyst, a geologist who studies the earth, an archaeologist who studies material remains of the human past. Now, the evidence the above scientists found was strong enough to charge Roy Whiting with the murder of Sarah Payne. In court, the experts presented their findings. The sheer fact that the fibers on Sarah's shoes were consistent with fibers in Whiting's van, that was enough. In addition, they found blonde hair on a t-shirt that was in the back of the van. The hair was found to be Sarah's. Also, 2 motorcyclists testified that they saw a white van fitting the description of Roy's Ducato parked off of a track near where Sarah's body was found. Sarah's oldest brother, who had seen her abductor, also testified. The evidence proved crucial in convincing the jurors of Whiting's guilt. On December 12th, Roy Whiting was found guilty and would eventually be sentenced to whole life in prison. Because Whiting was a known offender and had been jailed for a previous sexual assault of an 8-year-old girl in 1994, his name was one of the first to be put on the sex offenders register. Now, while we always intend to bring you a case, one of the most important things to come out of this case is our true focus. How did hearing about Sarah in the news affect people so much that they joined their voices in a mass throng of people? Sarah's mother obviously became concerned with the proximity of pedophiles living in close relation to children, so she started a campaign with the News of the World newspaper. They launched an appeal to change the law concerning the register. They wanted to know and make the public aware of how many dangerous criminals lived near them. You see, they had heard of a law in America called Megan's Law, which is a federal law in the United States requiring law enforcement authorities to make information available to the public regarding registered sex offenders. They wanted something similar, but in Sarah's name. They believed that the public ought to have easy access to this information. The government had blocked this for many years due to the fear of vigilante violence, but the public uproar was great. Many people voiced their wishes to keep their children safe. These voices proved to show the priorities that communities had how important that they were to them and how out of line the government was. Because of the public getting behind this appeal, the law was changed. A scheme was set up to allow parents to apply to the police for information on individuals if they have regular access to their child. Previously, a parent could alert police to concerns about someone, but there were no clear rules about whether they should be told anything if child prosecution officers discovered any cause for concern. No rules and no structure led to no accountability. Once the government acquiesced to the public demand for a change in law concerning sex offenders, a pilot program was started in 2008 and involved 4 police forces, and those police forces were in Warwickshire, Cambridgeshire, Cleveland, and Hampshire. The year-long project was hailed as a success by the Home Office. The Home Office is a department within the British government responsible for security and law and order. I mean, have you heard of James Bond and MI5? Their branch is a part of the Home Office. It was involved in this case due to the outcry of public demanding change and the pressure put on government ministers to act. Ministers from this department said that during the year-long pilot program, they were able to protect 60 children. Nearly 600 inquiries were made to the 4 forces involved, and it led to 315 applications for information and 21 disclosures about registered child sex offenders. That equates to countless numbers of parents and children notified. Once a dangerous individual was identified, through word of mouth, many more people would be apprised of the situation and would become concerned. One parent contacted the scheme after a neighbor had begun offering sweets to their children. Yes, it's a bit cliche. Police confirmed that the individual was a registered sex offender who had been banned from contacting children. He was arrested and remanded in custody for breaching the terms of his release. Only with the mass of voices joining the appeal asking for justice for Sarah and help in keeping their own children safe did it put pressure on the government to change the law regarding keeping sex offenders' details hidden and confidential. We hope that this has had a change in society. And if it has even kept one child away from a dangerous individual, then the change in the law has been beneficial. So, what can we do today? Firstly, if you see any child who may be in a dangerous environment or situation, please say something. Even if it is not within your power to do something, or it could be dangerous for you to do so, speaking to authorities and to people who can it's important. It's vital. Secondly, we can join our voices with others in a very easy way through change.org. Change.org describes itself as a website which allows users to create and sign petitions to advance social causes by raising awareness and influencing decision makers. It's a way to use technology to empower users to change what they see. It is free and easy to use. We can join a lot of voices to just one, to make it be heard, to get justice, to enact change. On there are some deeply harrowing stories of people trying to fight for justice and for a change in laws. We can join our voices with theirs to help them be heard. Just like the public signed their names to Sarah's appeal and got change, maybe our signature on a petition could help someone else. By doing those 2 things, maybe we can be one of the people that helps keep the children of the world safe. We can help our children have a voice and speak out and be heard before they become a terrifying statistic. Thank you all for joining Sidebar with me. Please like, share, subscribe. If this story or this theme or this message struck you or struck a chord, put a comment down below. If you have any interest or any causes, if you have any causes that you would like supported, place those below as well, and we'll take a look at those. It's very important that we give a voice to the voiceless. It's why we do this. So thank you so much. Take care of yourself and your family and friends. And don't forget to smile. I'll see you guys next time on the next Sidebar.